Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of The White Table. I'm your host, Meldiana Marie, and this is your lovely co-host, Nietzsche.
Tonight we'll be discussing the topic of child abuse. In Jamaica, it is viewed as discipline and it leads to long-term effects on our children. We'll be doing a question and answer segment where we'll share our views, and then you, our viewers, can respond or share your questions below. Let's get into it. Right. Question 1. How did you decide the best way to discipline your kids?
Okay, so I used the method that my parents used growing up. So I didn't know at the time that it was not a good method. I was just going based off what I learned from them. So even though growing up, they used to beat me for everything and I didn't like it, I still did it anyway, not knowing it was wrong. I'm sorry that you're my oldest child, so therefore you got the blunt of it because I was young when I had you. It's not an excuse, and I'm sorry I didn't know any better.
It's okay. I forgive you, and I want to thank you for breaking the cycle.
Thank you.
Okay, abuse is viewed as the norm in Jamaica. What happens when children try to speak up?
So in Jamaica, I can only speak for my country that I grew up in. I can't speak for anyone's country. But in Jamaica, we're taught that children must be seen and not be heard. And I think that's so wrong. Like, as children, you're not able to express yourself. So if someone tells your parents that you did something, you weren't given an opportunity to say, I didn't do it. Or even if you did do it, they could come to talk to you to say it was wrong and try to correct you. They think that beating is the only option for you. So they can't come to say, don't do this. So then you don't learn. So you go back and you do it again, and then of course you get spanking. And of course some people might say that, okay, so you got spanked for doing this, why would you do it again? But clearly you didn't learn anything because they didn't teach you that it was wrong. They just whooped you. And for like myself, my father, or the man I thought was my dad, he was very abusive. So I didn't have an opportunity to say anything to him because he would just come home not knowing that I did anything wrong. Even if I didn't do anything wrong, as long as he thought I did something wrong, I would get a beating.
Yeah, and for that same reason, they wonder why, their children are not close with them or they try to have any kind of relationship.
That is true, because as a child growing up, I wouldn't tell my parents anything because you didn't know if what you were telling them was gonna get you in trouble. So you want to build that relationship where you'd share stuff with your parents, but you were not allowed to share stuff with them because they considered everything to be rude. Like, if you try to talk to them, they said you don't have any manners, you're disrespectful. If you try to explain something to them, they think you're so rude. Like, I could give an example where my mom was talking to her neighbor once, and she said, it's 12 o'clock. And I said, no, Mom, it's not 12 o'clock. It's like 20 to 12, like 11:40. And she was so mad that when the lady left, she gave me a spanking, said that I interrupted our conversation and that was disrespectful. And there was nothing wrong with that. I was just letting you know that the time wasn't noon, so...
Yeah, so at what point did you realize that you were making a mistake?
Honestly, when you were 9, I caught myself. I was like, I'm doing the same thing that my parents did to me and I didn't like it. And so when you were 9, I said, I'm not going to spank you anymore. You are a smart kid. You were born smart. So I could talk to you and say, don't do this. And you weren't a bad kid. So I have to say quite honestly that a lot of the spankings that I gave, you didn't even deserve them because you were a child and you didn't come with a manual to say, I'm not supposed to do this. As a parent, I was supposed to be older and a little wiser. So rather than spanking you for something, I should have said, no, this is not right. Don't do it this way, or don't do this again, or the reason. Because a lot of times they don't want to tell you the reasons that you're not supposed to. They'll tell you that don't do it. Why? Because I said so. That's not an answer. You have to explain to them the reason so they can learn, because life is all about learning, and if kids aren't learning anything, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because I feel like when I was younger and I would tell you something like my uniform would get dirty and I would say to you it's because I was playing with the kids, you wouldn't listen.
No, I wouldn't, because I'm not making excuses. But that's how my parents were. They didn't listen to anything that I had to say, and therefore I continued on. But I'm glad I gained some sense to know that it was wrong.
And I forget. Okay, final question. What kind of effect or impact does abuse have?
Abuse I can tell from experience that it has psychological abuse. So, for example, I can tell you that going, like, even in school, where, because at home you're defenseless, you're helpless, because your parents, they have the power to do anything they want to you. So in school, if a kid would come to me and I felt like I was being disrespected, or they said something to me that I didn't like, I felt the need, like I had to defend myself, because I couldn't defend myself with my parents because they're adults, and I would get another ass whooping. So in school, I was known to be someone, how do they say it, feisty. But I was only because if someone did something to me in school, I was able to express myself. I didn't have that at home. So I grew up with that same stance where even to this day, my family will use that to say I'm feisty, but I'm outspoken, because I didn't have that as a kid. So I make it like I pride myself in expressing myself today, and many times I get in trouble for it because I just think it and I speak it. I don't bottle it up like I did when I was a kid.
Okay, we want to say thank you for sharing with us. I know that comes from, a place of love, and I want to thank you so much for learning from your mistakes, and you're such an awesome mom.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, that's all the time we have, guys. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and
subscribe.
See you next week.